it's probably not structural, and maybe I could systematize it a little bit now I'm talking about it. But yeah, something I do regularly is always asking for that constant feedback, and then the things that do resonate are, I'll jump down the rabbit hole and then try and develop those areas. But yeah, I think it all starts but with knowing self, and then understanding other people's perception of you as well.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Untapped Potential podcast with today's guest, Ben Young. Ben has a vast array of experience and is currently head of strength and conditioning at Inter Miami Football Club in Major League Soccer. Previously, he has worked at the pinnacle of rugby at Saracens and England, as well as the pinnacle of English football at the English FA with both men's and female national teams, including European Championships and World Cups. Ben is also passionate about helping high-performance coaches, practitioners, and graduates get better results through clarity, systems, and processes. And Ben radiates clarity, intention, and the embodiment of processes. In this episode, Ben shares experience, advice, and I think fantastic insight in how he has created the career that he has, how he tackles challenges head-on with intention that has enabled him to have a sustainable career as a practitioner. So without delaying any further, here's today's episode with Ben Young. Welcome to today's episode with Ben Young, so episode 8. And yeah, Ben, thank you so much. As with everyone, I'm so grateful that you're willing to come on and have a discussion, kind of really focused on the practitioner, your experience of the practitioner, but also your experiences of working with other practitioners and trying to glean some insight into, away from the technical criteria, although that's important, kind of really what sustains a career as a practitioner, and some of the things that you feel based on your experience, kind of the qualities that practitioners kind of benefit from and maybe should focus on a little more.
Yeah, mate, awesome. And thank you so much for the invite. I was intrigued and wanted to know more for sure as soon as you dropped that email. So yeah, some of the sort of points that you raised definitely resonated. So I think there's some stuff we can explore and yeah, see if there's any value at the end of it. We'll see.
Great. So the first, I guess, coming back to the start, and not to list where you've been or anything like that, but kind of, can you remember, and are you still in touch with like the inner drivers, really your inner drivers that led you into a career in sport as a practitioner?
Yeah, I just always loved sport as a kid. Whether that was inside of sport and being a part of a team, inside of school, being part of a team in the rugby team, the football team, some individual sports and tennis and swimming and that sort of stuff. But then also outside of sort of the schooling life, my dad I say fortunately now, introduced me to dirt biking as a kid. So I suddenly became like an adrenaline junkie as well. So yeah, you could find me at the skate park or on a dirt bike track. Basically a whole bunch of array of sports that just I suppose gave me different pleasures at the time, whether that's social connection or in the team sport settings, or really the things that I became most latched onto was the adrenaline and extreme sport side of things. I think that really pushed the button for me, but probably just a passion in a vast array of sports and seeing your idols at the time, how they progress, how they develop as players or athletes, and all the stories that go behind them. I can still watch hours and hours of those School of Hard Knocks type episodes, or the David Beckham documentary that's just come out. I love all of it. I love the adrenaline, the excitement, the passion, all of that stuff that surrounds sport. I think they're the main things that got me into it.
Okay. I mean, you kind of touched on it already, like connection within team environments that you're part of, and that's kind of a common theme that's come through with certainly many of the practitioners that I've spoken to already, like the connection of being part of a team, being part of something, and of course, if you're paid to do it as well, like that's an incredible place to be and fortunate place to be as well. So kind of moving through your career, like like the introduction says, you've achieved so much, and I think this question is coming from, I guess, from my research. Like I've spoken to many practitioners that have had the jobs, certain top jobs in certain environments, and many have been through or are at a point of, I think crisis might be like too much of a bigger word, but at some deep reflection moment, usually because of burnout or some relationship problems like divorce or kind of something around that environment. And so I kind of like, in your experience, and I don't know, because we've literally just met, what has been sort of some of the struggles that you experience as a practitioner, bearing in mind that at the end of through this conversation, we're going to come up with some key things that kind of enable you to be sustainable. But yeah, coming back to some of the things that you struggled with, maybe a particular period in your career that you've really struggled with so far.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you say about burnout, my first episode of burnout, if you like, was 6 years in. So 6 or 7 years in, yeah. So straight out of university, unbelievably like driven and passionate to get into the professional sports setting. Found myself at Saracens initially, and spent 7 seasons just pushing myself, pushing the athletes, just on all. You talked about it earlier when we were speaking, but even from a training perspective, myself pushing myself to the absolute limit in everything I did. I remember, I even still talk about it now. I used to, me and some of the lads that I still call them their friends, we would have multi-packs of Monster Energy in the back of our cars, and we'd be living off Monster Energy, because I'd have an academy session at 7 a.m. in the morning, then it would roll into the senior team, then I'd have the junior academy in the evening, then I'd do my preparation for the next day, and it would be rinse and repeat every single day. And then with that, and then as I sort of as I progressed through the organization, my responsibilities got more. The off season started to shrink as well. Like, I was blessed with 5 or 6 weeks maybe in the first 3 or 4 years of my career. And then they started to get shorter and shorter as I started to manage things and lead other people. So yeah, that burnout. And I still remember the meeting, because Saracens had the thing that probably allowed me to stay 6 or 7 years was probably the culture of Saracens. It's unbelievable. When I stood up to leave the organization, I remember saying, this is like a wedding speech, because I'm in a room with like 100 people that I genuinely feel like they're my family. And I remember then bringing that down into like at the time I was leading the senior academy program. So there was a reduced number of athletes, 10 or 15 athletes. So I remember having a smaller conversation with them, and I genuinely loved all of the lads in that room. And I was like, the reason I've got to step away is because I'm now giving you a disservice. I can't bring the energy that I could even last season, and to be able to repeat it and give you guys that value that you deserve. I can't do it. I'm not the person anymore. So it was a really difficult decision. And at that time, I then decided to go, or the plan was to go traveling, just to get away. But I'll leave it there in case there's any like points of interception you want there. But yeah, it only took me 7 years to get to that point. And then boom, I had to leave. And everyone thought I was crazy, because we'd won the Premiership the year before. The season that I left, we made the final of the Premiership and lost. And we made the European final as well. So the club was going from strength to strength, and they basically, and I knew they were going on just to win stuff, but visualizing myself doing that job another year, I just couldn't see it, and I knew that my energy was gone, and I wasn't going to be able to show up as I wanted to. So I just said, I have to, I've got to leave.
That is it sounds like, a very you're very self-aware to be able to, and courageous to make a decision, because it's like I say, the picture you're painting is how successful it was, the belonging that you felt, the connection with everyone that you felt, and yet you still made that decision. And so were you at a point where you could, in those 7 years, could you, I suppose in hindsight, of course, could you go back to see where things could have been done different, or was that just the culture at that time? So there's no other, the perception would be that there's no other way of doing that.
I don't think it was culture, because I think the club, particularly that club, and I think it is probably different everywhere else.
Yeah.
I think when I left, I haven't actually seen a culture that represents that. That's always been my North Star since. Okay. It's like, as much as trying to influence a program, no matter what role I'm at, it's kind of like Saracens is still the North Star that I tried to nudge people towards, because it was unbelievable. I think there's probably like a big resource thing there in terms of I was a head of strength and conditioning with the academy, but a department of one, like initially,
Right.
and then the expectations that come with that, and then probably the expectations you put on yourself. I think the people that maybe find themselves in the roles that we've both done are ambitious, they're hungry, you want to prove yourself, you've got all of these kind of like manly attributes that like
Yeah.
it's go 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 go. There was nothing on my radar about balance, like not for a second. And same even on the social side, I'd then go, and my one day off the night before, I'd go and I'd drink myself silly with the lads, be hungover all day, and then I'd just go again. And yeah, that was literally my 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. So you left, you made that decision. Um, did you have anything to go to in terms of financially, like any kind of work to go to that, or that you had on the side that you could rely on that made that decision a bit easier?
No, not at all. Like, and I didn't get paid well for the first 3 or 4 years of that job either. Like, this is rewind 15 or 16 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, the first year I was almost living on a couch. So I did the classic hard work to get into it as well, the internship and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
no, yeah, my family didn't really have any resources from the back end like that either.
Yeah.
So no, it was basically like, do I drop 20 or 25 grand into buying a house and this becoming my life? Or do I go and throw that money at a life experience, figure things out, and then crack on? So I opted for the second one.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I'll tell you my experiences of that, but all right. So what did you gain? What did you do? Did you go away and you had an experience?
Yeah, it was crazy. So, but well, to be fair, 2 months later, Dave Redding gave me a call. He just jumped from England rugby, which I had connections with through Saracens. He had just joined into the FA, and he needed a consultant to go
Right.
and work alongside their lead sports scientist with the women's national team. And they were going to finish that campaign like over the course of a year in Canada in 2014 in the World Cup. And I was like, perfect. I basically just wanted to go and travel North America. That was my plan, North and South America. Fuck, well, okay, we'll delay it 8 months. We'll do the consultancy, get another little insight into a totally different, fresh environment, which I knew would give me energy as well. Um, and then we'll start the traveling trip from there. So that's what we did. So I was a consultant there for sort of eight months or a year, and then we finished the World Cup, and then I basically traveled North America for a year off the back of that, off the back of the World Cup.
Great. Great. And so the reason I guess I'm digging into this. So you went traveling for a year. Were you working at all?
No,
So
no.
my point of bringing this up is what's come up and what I think is blocking some practitioners from making a choice for themselves is one, that obviously the financial element of stepping away from a full-time job, but two, the perception that if they step away from work for more than a couple of months, they're going to be redundant in the sense of they're going to be seen as out of date, or they're going to be seen as they're not up to, whatever, they're not up to date, I suppose. And so, yeah, what's your take on that? Because you took a year off and then you came, you just look at your CV, it just keeps going, the kind of places you've worked in. So what's your perspective on that? And did you experience trouble getting back in?
No, yeah. I suppose it might be complete ignorance, maybe overconfidence. I don't know. I'm just like, if I've done it once,
Right.
okay, let's actually rewind. How did I get my initial job? So out of university, I just went on a mission I was like, I have to work in professional sport. I don't care what it is or what level. I'm gonna contact every single person, so every Premiership football team, all the way down to League Two, and every Premiership rugby team, and then all the multi sports, blah 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 blah. And two people wanted to give me an opportunity or would have me in the door to have an interview for an internship, and that was Eddie Jones at Saracens and a guy at West Ham.
Right.
So like I always kind of had that hustler mentality, if you want to call it that. But I was like, if I've done it once, then I'll do it. I'll be able to do it again. And now I've got I've got a couple of strings to my bow. I've got a bit of experience I can lean on. I back myself to do it. And I don't know. I think maybe how I look at life is like it's just chapters. Everything's there to have. Do you have to have experiences? I've come to Miami, absolutely rolled the dice to come here. I haven't got I've got a 1 month rolling contract. It's brutal. Like I couldn't negotiate a fixed term contract, and I've got two daughters that I brought with me and my wife. Left the full-time job with the FA, so I've gone and done it again, almost in a way where I've just like gone, like, I'm just going to roll the dice. But it's life. It's a chapter. Like I'll figure it out. Like worst case scenario, maybe we end up back at my parents' house for a month, but I'll give me 4 weeks and I'll find a way. Like, you know, and that's probably reckless as a parent now, but I don't know. Like I don't know. Particularly if you're not happy, what's the point in security?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, you know?
I agree. I'm more on your perspective, you know. I think what you're teaching your daughters, you know, like life's there to be lived, and for me anyway, that's why I've got one daughter, and okay, so right, so there, and as well what you're talking about, and I suppose what you're, you know, Jack Naylor said the last interview, like, you know, Jack Naylor, you know, he escalated very fast through his career, and really what he was talking about is connection. Like, wasn't his, especially certainly at the beginning, wasn't his knowledge or his expertise, his experience. It was his connection. I suppose that's what's standing out about what you're talking about. Like you're creating connections, and people got to, you know, I don't know. Would you say that's? It seems like. Would you say that's true for you? Like, you're just good at creating connection.
Oh, I don't know, because I also think I'm a really bad like networker. I'm terrible for it. And I think one of the things that really I do sacrifice with my job, because we all sacrifice a lot, is probably maintaining my friendship network, and definitely a work network. I try to, once I open the door at home, it's like I'm at home and I'm present and I'm intentional about being present. I'm definitely intentional with my time. But yeah, like in terms of the thing that I let go is almost a bit of a friendship network as well. Right. So I don't know about creating, if it's creating a network.
Suppose,
yeah, the thing that's gone.
No. Sorry, a bit of a delay. I suppose kind of rather than a network or networking, it's more with a connection, bonding with individuals. So even if that, I don't know, you know, maybe when you do see your mates after a long time, it's like you haven't been away. And I suppose maybe that's the same with some of the staff that you've worked with.
Yeah, definitely. Like, all the staff I look back on, like they're all friends, absolutely friends. Yeah, and maybe not ones that you need to speak to every day, but you know that it's the feeling's mutual when you pick up the phone. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So moving forward, and I suppose maybe, you know, you can pick any place within your career, but like, I suppose, what then, you mentioned it at Saracens, like about the environment, your North Star. What kind of characteristics in that environment allowed you, or the reason why you call it a North Star for you?
Yeah, I think you were given complete trust. One of the first, okay, so this is something I'll take with me for sure. One of the first things I was told when I got there by the performance director at the time was like, you're in the organization now as an intern, but the reason you're here is because we believe you could be the performance director in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. For what? So boom, you've got all of the trust and support. Like they've got complete belief in you. You're in the building and you're here to stay. And again, I haven't seen, particularly in football, I haven't seen that that desire to have secession amongst particularly backroom staff within an organization. I actually think it's a really advantageous thing to have as well. Constant secession. So just recruit based on, you know, finding unbelievably good people, like practitioners and good people that you see a future in at whatever level you're recruiting, you see them sustaining and staying with the organization. I think that was an unbelievably powerful thing. So I suppose people talk about psychological safety now, like all of those environments like that. Instant psychological safety, because you're like, fuck, I'm here to stay. I'm the new guy in, and I'm making protein shakes, but I'm going to be, give me 5 years, and I might be the gaffer. So I think that psychological safety. There was a mantra of honesty, discipline, and work rate. So the work rate one definitely resonated with me because it was me through and through. And it was like, I like to define myself by that, whether that's healthy or unhealthy. But that definitely resonated. The discipline was almost like just consistently doing the right thing. And if you see someone not doing the right thing, call them out on it. And I really love that accountability and that accountability to discipline and consistency. And then honesty was like, a given. Like any of the interdisciplinary conversations that you have, everyone was given the autonomy, trust, ownership, whatever, to give their opinion. It'd be received in the right way, and then we made a group discussion. And when everyone walked out the door, you knew that it was like there was no weak edges. There was no one going to go and have a corridor conversation. Everyone was on the bus, and this is the decision. So it almost sounds like cliche and all of the sort of processes that we should have in place. But how many are like actually executing those types of conversations at that level, like every day? I don't think there's that many, and it's hard to foster, I think. But they did an unbelievable job at it.
Yeah, I agree with you. From what I've heard, that it's very, very rare, and we touched on it before we recorded. Like the idea of self-preservation. So many practitioners have got, for various reasons, insecurity of jobs or competition or trying to justify their role, justify the impact, all that kind of stuff, which kind of counteracts exactly what you're saying. Like there's a lot of that, and that I've heard, and I think that this is what I mean about what you're talking about. To me, anyway, I wonder how you see it, but really, it's being aware of how you are showing up, and not. If there's a difficult conversation to be had, to not make it about you, but see it as a bigger thing. Like, okay, this is how we can grow from this, rather than this guy's having a pop at me. Don't know if you,
100%. And I can see even and taking that attitude into different environments where I did feel safe and everyone can have a voice. When I've gone into environments that isn't normal, I can tell that I'm on a different level here. Like these people aren't saying what they think. Oh basically that they're not saying what they think. Everyone's kind of playing a politician, and it's a dangerous place to be. And then I'm going, no, like we're here to make a collaborative decision.
For sure. So have you been like what allowed you then, or what have you done any kind of, it's wrong to say the formal, but like what's self-growth to you? And I say that because I've mentioned it a few times in a few episodes. There's a paper came out recently by Dave Hamilton and Brad DeVries and a few others in American sport, and looking at they're clarifying the role of a high performance director. And so the high performance director is in a way like a conductor of multiple departments. And so one part of fostering effective environments is opportunities for self-growth. And many of the people, and this was me, I thought I was in a self-growth process or personal development, but I was only through the technical lens, like of an S&C coach. I was such a narrow bandwidth of actually who I actually was, and which left massive blind spots. And so, I wonder how and how do you see that? How do you see self-growth?
Yeah, interesting question. For me, it definitely isn't the reading every paper, the technical side of it. I think I think ultimately it all comes down to knowing yourself, complete self-awareness. The better you can know yourself and see all of those things. I mean, everyone's going to have blind spots, right?
Yeah.
Unless you ask for direct feedback. So I think there's something there in terms of a solution. And I've done some good stuff around that as well. So maybe I could share that as we talk about it. But I remember purposely taking myself off Twitter a few years ago because I found myself diving down the rabbit hole of I couldn't keep up with it always felt like everyone was. I mean, your feed is you make the choice out of what your feed looks like, right? But my feed was 1,000 different S&C coaches, and so in my mind, but I wasn't thinking of it like that. I was thinking, all of these people are reading something new. Have you seen this? I love the takeaway from this. Have you? I was melting in or drowning is probably a better word than melting. Drowning in constant underachievement because I hadn't read it, or now I need to go and read it, or so there was a huge rabbit hole there. So I think I had the self-awareness to recognize it wasn't actually a positive thing, and I needed to find my my growth opportunities in the relevant to the environment or context I was working at the time. So whether that's asking players for feedback, technical, non-technical, staff, manager, looking at the whole hierarchy, up, down, left, right, everyone you're touching base with, and getting that kind of 360 kind of input.
Yep.
I think that's probably one of the safest and probably most positive places to start, because it's acute and it's relative to the context you're working in. It's probably going to help kind of problem solve as well as you build trust, because you're asking for feedback within those contexts. And people appreciate that. People appreciate that you're showing vulnerability to, no, you tell me what's the one thing I need to fix now, and what's the three things I could be doing better, and what's one thing that I'm really, really good at, for example.
Yes.
So people want to give you, it's unbelievable. Everyone wants to give you that feedback. No one's got a problem having a coffee when they're just giving you the feedback. So that's really that's really useful. And I remember I did it actually when I left Saracens. I sent about 20 of the players a questionnaire, like the good, the bad, the ugly, and just reflecting like that and seeing how that married up against my own self perception.
Right.
So that was useful. And I think I generally try and it's probably not structural, and maybe I could systematize it a little bit now I'm talking about it. But yeah, something I do regularly is always asking for that constant feedback. And then the things that do resonate, I'll jump down the rabbit hole and then try and develop those areas. But I think it all starts with knowing self.
I want to briefly interrupt today's conversation and really ask you to reflect on that. What is knowing yourself? What does that mean to you? Because I want to draw your attention to the Practitioner Needs Analysis Coaching Program. The conversations in my research have shown clearly that 160 highly successful practitioners supporting some of the world's greatest athletes have on one level achieved a great deal within high performance sports and academia. Yet on a much more personal level, many are quietly suffering to maintain the perception of being successful and happy. This is the inconvenient truth sitting just under the surface within a high performance environment. The cost of this truth ranges from divorce, absent parent, physical and mental illness, all of which contribute to limiting the performance impact we will strive so hard to achieve. The human element has been forgotten, with many top practitioners now finding ways to leave our beloved industry. My research process has spawned the services I now provide to support performance practitioners. Athletes have a vast array of options within their support network to help them thrive, optimize, and activate their full expression. But very little is currently aimed at offering this unique support for performance practitioners. This is where the Practitioner Needs Analysis Coaching Program fills that gap. The Practitioner Needs Analysis allows you to identify what qualities are most important for you to show up in your role, career, and life in your fullest expression. It provides an inner analysis that highlights the components of your life, giving you clarity on what is blocking you, how it's blocking you, and what you need to do to release those blocks. This guides you to tailor your goals and actions away from potential burnout, divorce, or illness, and instead towards one where you thrive as a practitioner and in your personal life. To find out more about the group and one-to-one options Men Behind Sport offers, visit www.menbehindsport.com or email me at richard@menbehindsport.com. Now back to this great conversation with Ben Young.
And then understanding other people's perception of you as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, such powerful examples, and I think it takes courage to do that. To ask for feedback and honest feedback, and which I think, like you said, I think there's an element of, well, you're creating trust for people to be able to say that to you, like, because if you haven't got that trust, do you really want to give this person honest feedback, or obviously there's a way to do that, but I think that that's what's standing out to me. Like you just seem to, again, connection and trust with the people that you're around.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right, because when it's not there, that hurts me. When I don't feel that there's people don't trust me, or I don't have a connection, that's probably one of my limitations, because I need without the connection, I really struggle. So if there's head coaches in the past that I haven't managed to really connect with, I struggle with that. I struggle with that.
Mm-hmm. With I guess it made me think of this, like self-growth or CPD or development. So much this has come through a lot. Like so much is focused at, obviously everything's focused on the athlete, optimizing and processes and frameworks to enhance performance in the athletes we work with. But there's what are your thoughts, if you have any at all, on the idea of kind of support structures to enhance decision makers in the backroom staff, like, from head coaches? I mean, there's Cody Royal. Don't know if you heard of Cody Royal. He works with head coaches in the multiple different sports, but like a coach facing service, because I feel that, just from all the conversation I had, I feel that is sort of the next step, or a crucial step, to have solely coach facing, in a way like at the EIS or UK Sport Institute, like a performance lifestyle type of service.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe adapted, I don't know. But I wonder, have you ever had that type of support? Have you seen that type of support? And do you think that would be valuable?
Yeah, I think it could be unbelievably valuable. I've seen it. Actually, no, I've seen it twice. Yeah, so there was a guy at Saracens. He was unbelievable. And there was a guy at the FA that worked with the women's national team, a guy called Adam Streeter. And he was excellent. I think he's now like the head of culture change at Primark or something like that.
Okay.
But he did an unbelievable job. So he came in as sort of like, it wasn't psychology, but it was, call it culture. But he would work with the head coach or any of the staff that would want it and were open to it. And yeah, it would be that. It would be that kind of that glance at what people's perceptions are of you, what your own perception is of self, blind spots, areas of growth, all of that kind of stuff, and just a regular kind of check-in. And I know the manager at the time got a huge amount from it, and it influenced the whole team. And then myself, I'd lean on him as well for sure. I think it could be huge. I think it definitely could be the next big step.
Yeah, I wonder, just some of the conversations of like I said, it's all all confidential, but there's a lot of practitioners, and I suppose this is the people listening. Kind of my point in saying this is there's a lot of practitioners that are struggling deeply to maintain a position, or even the idea that a term came up, that the figure front. So a couple of quotes from my research was like, the figure front is a divorced male who works all the hours, meaning that person, and this is not a fault to the person, it's just a lack of self-awareness maybe, or working for other reasons, for example, because they don't want to be alone, they don't want to be alone with their thoughts, they don't want to, maybe their problems at home, whatever it is, there's something deeper, there's a reason to that. But like the idea of the figure front is creating the metronome, or the pulse of the environment. And so with practitioners underneath that, it's very hard to sustain a type of, I don't know, or the perception is it's hard to sustain a type of lifestyle in and out of work, because the person in charge is pulling so much. And I wonder if you've, obviously not to name anyone, but have you experienced anything like that, and how have you dealt with that, if at all?
That the figurehead of the manager is that way inclined.
Yeah, maybe not be a football manager. It might be head of the department, or someone within the pulse of the expectations. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. The expectations on all practitioners is to be, check your emails 9:00 at night. Get the reports done like short notice. Which obviously that happens sometimes. I know you're probably the best person to talk about with a major competition. But I suppose normal day-to-day, kind of the idea that there's such high demand and the boundaries are not respected, and those types of, because that's come through so much.
Yeah, I probably haven't. Fortunately, then I haven't experienced it as a leader, a leader sort of down to me per se. But I can absolutely see how the environment is completely conducive to that. There's massive expectations on all of the backroom staff outside of work hours, being on call or on tap for every player. And I suppose it's just a power in numbers thing, right? It's just you're the one and they're the 30 or they're the 40, and it's carnage if you let it be. And I think maybe there's something there around the power of or the ability to be able to say no, or the ability to be able to set boundaries, or and having the confidence to be able to set boundaries. maybe that comes again through what you were saying earlier around insecurity for role. So if you feel insecure in your position, then suddenly, that makes it a lot harder again to say no. Particularly if you're a conscientious person that wants to start keeping people happy and all of that sort of stuff. So suddenly in that little mix of trying to keep people happy, being outnumbered, 1 to 40, and a lack of kind of confidence to say no or to set boundaries, it's a recipe for chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really
which is probably everything you're hearing, right?
Massive fear of reprisal, can't say no, or it's not respected, or just really fear of reprisal, or don't know how to say no because people perceive no as negative, when in fact I think, when you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something else, and there's a way of saying it as well. It doesn't have to be it's not a negative, it's even someone's opinion. If it's a professional opinion, I think it's important to say, if someone doesn't agree with something, it's important to say that, because it offers a mirror. They may not agree with it, but it just offers a mirror, that I think anyway, someone to sort of check their rationale, their reasoning, or their thinking. And
I think just while you're saying there, not responding in the moment. So like, if you are the yes man, this is I'm trying not to just give advice because it's just my world's experience, I suppose, but for something that's worked in the past for me, or what I now try to do, is to make everything a little bit more formal, as it were. It's formal but informal. So rather than saying no in the moment and me feeling guilty or whatever, like, okay, say yes, but go and ask or request to have a 5-minute catch up with the person that's causing that pain point for you. And there might be a lot to go around, so you might have to have a lot of coffees, but have the conversation. And I think now, as I'm older, maybe as you get kids and your boundaries are more, my kids are everything, and no one's gonna and my time at home is sacred. So my whole world prioritization is around that. So like, I maybe I do need to go and have a conversation with the manager, just to, I wouldn't lead with this is my expectation, this is what I need. It's almost just like, by the way, can I just have a catch up when you text me at 9 o'clock, just so you know, it makes me feel a bit like this because I really value this and this.
Right.
What do you think? Like, is there a better way? Whatever. As soon as you sort of like bring it down to just that human level and dissolve the conversation, and it might be I always find with those people call them difficult conversations, but the difficult part is just to say, can we grab 2 minutes? I think as soon as you begin the conversation, unless the person's a complete, someone that you don't want to be a colleague of anyway, the humanity comes quite quickly as soon as you say, like, just so you know, it makes me feel like this. No one can argue with that, because it's literally how you're feeling.
Yes.
And no one wants to make you feel bad, generally.
Yeah.
So they'll change their action. I don't know. And I think that's just, I call it putting out fires or whatever, but it's probably something I've brought into my like everyday way of working now, that it's like at the point that it happens, it's like, go and have the next day, go and have the conversation. Don't let things fester. Don't let things build. Just be like, no, you're almost saying, these are my boundaries, or you're starting to let people know in a softer way, these are my boundaries, this is the limit. If you need something else from me, 100%, but let's figure out like how I can, how we can do it in a different way, potentially.
I think that's a great example and a clear way of, and I think this is what I mean by, like, you're not just saying, no, don't do it. You're offering something. How can we work this out? There's a positive sort of slant to it, because you're not saying, no, never contact me. Like, how can we work this out so it works for both of us? Because my family time is really important. And that's what stood out to me about you saying that, and and so like an example there was just around, I don't know, people resonate with this that work in team sports, but squad numbers every day. You have some players that are training fully, some players that are modified, some players that are injured, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's kind of doing different things. The earlier the manager gets that information, the better. But the way that we get to that end point could be absolute chaos, with 400 different messages going around between the player, the physio, the S&C coach, the rehab guy, the head of performance, whoever. That could be absolute carnage. But then, you have this sit down with the manager. You say, look, this is what it's making me feel like, because I'm the gatekeeper of all of this information, and I've got to speak to
15 different people to be able to give you this one bit of information. How about if we just go on a live Google document and you'll see it as it comes in? If it's not on the document, I don't know, but I'm in the process of finding out, blah, 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 whatever. And then, cool, we got a way of working that's like, he's happy with, it works for me because I've just bought myself being off the phone, and people can now input into the sheet, the physio will say, yep, he's good to go. Everyone's doing the work for me. And I'm looking at the sheet going, sweet, like, yeah, everyone's happy, and I've removed myself from the situation.
Yes.
So I don't know. There's always different, and technology is great for that, isn't it? There's always going to be different ways of solving the problem. But again, it started with that conversation with the manager, sit down and figure out how it can work for everyone.
Right, and I think, correct me wrong, but I think what you're describing is an openness. Just because it's done in one way doesn't mean it doesn't have to stay that way. Just a fluidity to change systems if it needs to change, rather than being stuck on the idea, well, we've always done it like this, so it's got to be like this.
Yeah, I think, and that's a good point. I try to come to every single conversation with like, we can do anything, eh? Like, nothing's off the table. We can do whatever. I'm completely open. Let's shape it how we want. And let's go. Let's make a collaborative decision.
Yeah. So many good examples. So like, I kind of want to turn it a bit towards, like, I guess, a focus on your career, and you touched on it regarding your wife and your two daughters. And so what that sounds like to me is, my experience of having a daughter, like, things just change. They just change. It's not a thought thing. It's just all of a sudden that's just this amazing thing in your life, amazing person in your life. And so I think before we go into like, how do you make yourself present, I suppose. Well, yeah, let's start on there. How do you separate from work? Because you said a short while ago that it's your sacred time, and once you're home, and you're consciously, purposefully present. How do you do that? Because many a common saying, I'm stuck in my head. So even when they're home, they're not home because they're thinking about next game, stage of season, next phase of the Olympic cycle, CBD, whatever it is. Like, they're just stuck thinking in the future rather than present.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a weirdo where I have to get everything. I have to have my head clear at all times. So that might be the small, and it might come down to the way that I tackle those different conversations, right? But even with my missus, if we've got a slight little niggling issue, I have to just resolve it and get it done, have my head clear. And it's the same with work. It's like, I won't go home, and that's the thing. So then it might be a text to the missus saying I'm going to be a little bit late, but I'd rather that and then be present for half an hour from 6:30 to 7 before the kids go to bed than at 4 o'clock and go and like, having conversations but I'm vacant, or like, your head's elsewhere.
Yes.
So like, I'll generally always try to just clear the decks, and just luckily I've got a really supportive wife. But we'll even speak during the day, and if I'm absolutely like goosed, it'd be like, right, I need a 20-minute power nap when I'll need one. Like, I know that I will, to be at my best and to be able to actually like step up and take over properly. Like, I'll come in, I'll go straight, I'll say hello to everyone. Oh, Dad just got to go to bed, put the head down, 20-minute alarm, boom, wake up right now. There's no excuses, like, I'm in. So there's loads of little techniques like that every day that I'm kind of using, off the back of this afternoon. I've said I'm going to be, an hour late. No problem, and we work it out. But yeah, I think it's about being intentional, isn't it? I could spend 20 minutes when I go